Her vestments are strange. Where is she from?
Hell's Kitchen.
You see? She is Hell's spawn. How else could she survive in the corruption?
When it comes to Square Enix, I have a huge, maybe an enormous weak spot. I always support their newly released titles and even try my best to cover their games. Call me a fan, or rather like a loyal supporter. Starting from the Squaresoft era, they have always been a part of my life that I can't deny. During last year, I did videos about Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, the Diofield Chronicle, Valkyrie Elysium, Crisis Core Reunion, and Live Alive also. I tried my best to keep up with their oddly enough monthly release titles. And when compared to those titles, even though Forspoken had a bigger budget for both development and marketing combined, it felt even more soulless than all of them. For obvious reasons, their behavior of monthly launching big titles started to concern me. They really did launch a game nearly every month, and they probably aim to do it this year also, starting with the Forspoken and then Final Fantasy Rhythm game, Chat Rhythm Final Bar Line, and then the one that I'm hopeful with, Octopath Traveler 2. Though I wish from the bottom of my heart that Square Enix's letdowns of 2023 start and then end with Forspoken. I'm not gonna start talking about so-called cringy dialogues of Forspoken. In fact, those so-called cringy dialogues that were trend topic on Twitter are the smallest and the most weightless problems of Forspoken. Its flaws are even bigger, lying deep down at the very core of this game. Forspoken is heartbreakingly soulless and uninspiring. I even enjoyed Final Fantasy 15 a lot despite its flaws. It had a magical world like memorable characters, but most importantly, it had a soul, a design that people would just recognize immediately. I'm Arcade Out here, and today I'm with the first big disappointment of 2023.
Hey, Homer. I'm sorry I'm late, I know. Miss me?
Forspoken story tone is like a Netflix series, or maybe like a Doctor Strange origin story. We have our protagonist Frey having difficulties in her life as an orphan, living with her cat alone. Street thugs are chasing her, she's nearly sent to prison, just what would have by a Marvel origin story, right? As right before she was supposed to leave New York and opens a new page for herself, her place gets torched, she loses all her money and forced to leave her cat to the judge, who tries to keep her from the trouble. Now Frey is penniless, alone and depressed. And guess what happens at that point? She finds a cup that isekais her to a new land of opportunities where she can cast for difference of elements magic, fighting against corruption of the land called Break, becoming the savior of this unknown dimension called Atia. This is the main plot of Forspoken, and there is no problem with it, to be honest. Isekai concept is still popular in Japan, especially if we were to talk about visual novels here. I think there is nothing wrong with the Western Isekai kind of concept. This cuff who sticks to Frey's arm speaks, acts as a guide for Frey, and shortly after we find ourselves in Atia, we learn that this corruption called Break actually decays animals and humans alike, turning them something like a Break zombie. To make it simple, uninteresting and shallow enemy designs. Some of the people of Atia see Frey as their savior, who will defeat 4 different Tanta, former leaders of human factions that are causing the Break. And the Council of the Last Bastion of Humanity sees Frey as a threat, no surprise. To be completely honest, Frey being 21-year-old New Yorker doing catchphrases, saying cheesy lines or being surprised was not cringy at all. These lines were mostly around like Marvel dialogue level, trying to entertain the audience while trying to make Frey likable as like she's one of us. However, there are some contradicting elements here, and I think comparing Hi-Fi Rush with Forspoken would make you understand these contradictions better. The world of Forspoken is grey, soulless, and the events happening, people decaying into these mindless zombies are dark as F, right? So Frey F-bombing when using fire spells or doing catchy lines might seem cringy for some people. On the other hand, Hi-Fi Rush here, having colorful visuals, non-serious tone makes everything even more enjoyable, quite similar to the tone of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. On the other hand, Forspoken's world, its concept and Frey are conflicting, and it's not just about the character development here, but the tone of the way things are handled. Frey is not a spoiled person, actually takes everything seriously, but she also wants to be happy and without struggles. However, Forspoken's world design, its concept is not supporting Frey at all. That being the case, Forspoken did not feel like a passion project for me. Once again, if I were to compare it with previous Square Enix titles like Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, the Diofield Chronicle, Valkyrie Elysium, Crisis Core Reunion and Live Alive, despite their flaws, I never had this feeling. Unfortunately, from its world design to visuals, its gameplay, combat and even the side contents just feel uninspiring. Let's start with the combat then, shall we?
Another Tanta's power.
Oddly enough, Forspoken could have been a neat Avatar The Last Airbender kind of a game, you know? As Frey starts her journey with earthbending magic, shooting rocks like an assault rifle, attacking with the tendrils that would heal her, binding enemies with roots and more. At first, earth magic with range combat felt a bit shallow, though my doubts were cleared with each spell I unlocked by earning these mana points. These mana points can be acquired through walking all over them through Atia or just by leveling up. It's not that hard to collect these. Each element has two different spell types, one being normal attacks that you can spam and the ones being like special attacks with cooldowns. In Earth's case we have like assault rifle rock bullets, one big earth spike magic and then earth shield that you can protect yourself from incoming damages, and then making that shield explode to deal damage as normal attacks, and then binding roots, life stealing tendrils as special attacks. Sounds kinda neat, right? Well, everything was fine at first and then got better as I defeated the first Tanta and got fire magic. Let me tell you this beforehand, I have this tiny bit of a pyromaniac within me, so in this case everything turned out to be great with fire magic. Fire magic has this Liu Kang fire punches, flame swords, spears of hell, flame clones that you can summon, bringing the gameplay of Forspoken to its peak state. If you do not like how fire magic looks or its gameplay, there's no way I think you would enjoy Forspoken, since the rest of the elements being water and lightning has once again the similar gameplay to earth magic, making everything meaningless and shallow once again. If, and I'm underlining the word if here, if only we had 4 different elements with 4 different playstyles, then at least I would have tried my best to defend Forspoken as a fun game with shallow story and mundane world design. However, when the lack of enemy variety is combined with the lack of gameplay depth, even the flashy, cool-looking fire skills cannot redeem Forspoken, I'm afraid. Well, at least if you feel interested towards Forspoken, my advice would be to gather at least 3 of these elements before you start doing the side contents, so that you won't burn yourself out with the repetitive combat. Another selling point of Forspoken is, as you know, the parkour element. Though I wouldn't call this as a parkour. I mean, did we ever name Sonic Frontier as a parkour game? I think not. Within the empty soulless open world of Forspoken, Frey can run fast, climb hills and mountains also fast, use her fire whip to make her spring higher, use her water elements to surf around. That might look fun to do. Parkour mechanics feel actually fluid, smooth and fun. However, once again, contradicting with these mechanics is the world of Forspoken itself. Even the main missions of Forspoken actually wants you to travel from one point to another, and in most of times there is nothing but wandering enemies, puzzle chests and dungeons that would help you to gather gear in between, meaning that you can basically rush from one point to another if you don't care about the side contents at all. Since I have this stupid urge to play any game with completionist tendency, I tried to clear these birdcage looking dungeons that have bosses inside, fought against brainless hordes of break zombies to clear villages, and during most of times these contents were quite same. Those birdcage dungeons were just toneless, samely designed dungeons and nothing much. If I were to compare Forspoken's bland open world and repetitive side contents with other AAA open world titles, and in this case let's compare it with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I think I would still prefer Ubisoft's overwhelming open world design over Forspoken's. At least there is a charming atmosphere, a living world there, like something to like. Something to breathe. Needless to say, although Forspoken has the vibes of Final Fantasy XV due to having the same game engine, the 6-year-old predecessor felt more charming, deeper, lively. You can actually feel that it's made with passion. But the same can't be said for Forspoken, as its soundtracks, the world design and even the setting fails to impress. I understand why the whole world of Atia feels empty, and supposing that also understand why it feels soulless, let's say it's due to its setting of break. However, even the last bastion of Atians called Cipal feels bland. From its design, textures to NPCs, it just feels dull. For a moment I thought that Cipal kinda reminded me of Final Fantasy XIV's Ishgard, but with no interesting NPC interactions, no ambience, the city itself feels like a graphical technical demo project, nothing close to a $70 AAA game. Such a pity, seeing the game engine of Final Fantasy XV is wasted on such soulless, toneless and forgettable experience.
This is the mausoleum. Our souls come here when we die. What are you doing here? And you? You belong in the lowest city.
Yes, you have no right to be here. Neither of you. Be gone!
I never wanted to be this harsh on Square Enix title, but if I were to call myself a Square Enix fan, a loyal supporter to their titles, I need to be straightforward and say that Forspoken is the first big disappointment of 2013 and one of the most unfaithful experiences of Square Enix of this decade. Stranger of Paradise was made fun of because of its chaos being meme, the Diofield Chronicle and Valkyrie Elysium didn't have any PR budget at all, and Live Alive just launched silently. Nevertheless, all of these games, despite their ups and downs, had memorable moments, had something unique to like and hold on to, and Forspoken felt weak at every point. Its combat and gameplay might seem fun from afar, however the variety is again shallow and feels uninspiring due to every element gameplay being similar, plot twists of Forspoken being quite predictable. There may be people still who would like to give it a try despite the flaws of Forspoken, however it might be best to expect the level of plot twist around Marvel movie level. And I know many of you are having fun with Forspoken's smooth looking but actually shallow and repetitive combat, and I think I would have liked it if it didn't have the same approach for 3 element magics except the fire one. It might sound a bit monotone here, but water element could have been like a trident combined with an ice arrow, or lightning could have been like a hammer inspired by Mjolnir, summoning thunder wolves or bursts to deal extra damage. The potential was so high, but Forspoken just wanted to stick with long range combat. There is just shooting electric shots and water balloons all over to similar, uninteresting enemy design. And when this shallow gameplay combines with the soulless world of Forspoken, there is no way I can just say good things about it. It's the first big disappointment of 2023 for me, and I hope it will be the last in case of Square Enix here.